His Dark Materials has always been a really fascinating, interesting, and kind of thought-provoking show that has done some pretty wild and weird things, but I don't think I was prepared for the absolute insanity and madness and just bold, crazy, just nonsense that I was in store for in these first 2 episodes. The start of season 3 is just this giant opening about, like, there's the creator and he created everything. Or did he? And maybe he's just some kind of angel, and maybe he's a piece of shit, and maybe he's got some other boy whose name rhymes with Megatron? Why is the villain they're trying to kill at this point name some kind of version / rhyming version of Megatron? That's what the name of the big bad of this show appears to be. Metatron. Just a name very similar to Megatron, and maybe it's a name in religious things, because now as I'm yelling and saying, I feel like there was a character in Supernatural very late in the game called Metatron, and that show was using all kind of religious craziness. Maybe I should have done some research before I started doing this whole Transformers gag. For me personally, some of the highlights of Season 1, if not the main highlights of Season 1, was James McAvoy's Azrael, Lord Azrael. His performance was so interesting, and he magnetic, charismatic, kind of, you know, interesting, likable character that at the end of the season, in the best finale I'd seen in a long time, when it came out, just blew me away. He does the unthinkable and kills his daughter's best friend to open a portal to another world, and I was in love with the character, and I was so excited to see what was next for Lord Azrael. And I found it very, very disappointing in Season 2 that he just, like, wasn't in it at all. Like, at times people were like, he's trying to build some kind of army, and I'm like, sure, cool. I feel like I would love to see that. I would prefer to see that than have some random witch rock up and say that, you know, randomly here and there throughout the season. I think I remember reading that he was meant to have, like, a whole episode selected to himself that was, like, you know, his whole journey. And so, you know, we'd have that time of, like, oh, I want to see him, and then we'd finally see him. Whereas what we get is, like, a little bit of, like, a monologue kind of speech at the end and a cameo at the end of Season 2, which, and I'm not trying to throw shade on Season 2, it's still really good, didn't like it as much as Season 1, but I didn't really like all the Earth stuff. Too much Earth stuff. It was like, I don't care about Earth. I want to see polar bears with armor be like, I'm the king! And the other polar bear with the armor was like, actually, I'm the king! Yeah, I preferred all that stuff in Season 1. But Lord Azrael was really, really great. And so I was pretty excited and surprised to find out that Season 3, it's like, Lyra who? She can just go to sleep. We're gonna follow Azrael for the whole time. These first 2 episodes are essentially the Lord Azrael show. It shouldn't have been called His Dark Materials. It should have been called Lord Azrael, and he's got a bunch of boys, and they're going to go kill angels, and I guess kill God? Is he trying to kill God? I know at the start they're like, it's not called God. We don't call him God. It's called the Creator. But he's not even the Creator. So like they're like doing the kill God thing, but like they're not doing it, because he's actually not God. He's just an angel pretending to be God. But also, this angel pretending to be God has like a second in command, like a right-hand man, Regent or something they call him, which is the Metatron character from Transformers. You've all seen those movies. He's got the transforming, the metal, I couldn't describe it. I was like, how do I describe Megatron? He's the slightly murkier, darker Transformer. I can't really tell which one is Megatron, and this is coming from the only person in the world that likes that first Transformers movie. I don't know if it's nostalgia or just like that little transforming effect they do. That's just the greatest thing I've ever seen. It's just not the video for this! So in these first 2 episodes, Lyra gets sidelined a little bit, and she just has a bit of a sleep, I guess. She has a couple of dreams, or maybe they're visions, I don't know, but she's like running through this kind of land of just weird, I don't know, dusty, sandy, kind of, I don't know, it's got like a weird color grade to it, and she's all like, Roger! And I'm like, the guy from Season 1, the guy that died. I remember that bit, because it was awesome. Tragic, obviously children dying, bad. I'm gonna take a hard, controversial call. I think children dying is bad. Characters that I find incredibly charismatic and likable, who are driven on a goal that I agree with, but murder children to do their goal and to succeed in their goal? Complicated and fascinating, and I love it! I love it! I can't stress how much I enjoy that he killed that child. It just... What kind of show am I watching? I don't understand. I feel like at times it feels like a children's show where they're running around with a little, pet, and the pet's all like, I love you. I don't want you to grow up, Lyra, because then I'll change and you're changing, but then I'll stop changing. And I'm like, oh, adolescence and puberty. This is a kid's show. And then her dad kills her best friend. And I'm like, so what? Sorry, I really need to stop talking about the other seasons. I've just rewatched a bunch of them, not all of them, because I didn't realize this was coming out so soon, so I didn't have time, even though I have all the time in the world. I didn't manage my time properly because I'm not professional at this, because I actually, despite my appearance, have a real job. Someone hired me, and I, in fact, manage other people, which is... I don't know how that happened. I still don't know how that happened. So Lyra's brief appearance in these first 2 episodes is her running about and doing some kind of dream walking thingies, and she's all like, Roger! And Roger's like, it's me! And I kept thinking, I saw the episodes with him today. No, not today, wait. Yesterday. I saw episodes with him yesterday. Either we are seeing the actor go from Neville Longbottom in Harry Potter 1 to Neville Longbottom in Harry Potter 8, or it's a different actor. I can't tell. I tried to Google it, but I found it for some reason difficult to find, and I don't know why. I was like, who plays him? And I kept scrolling, but I was watching, and then I'm like, I'm missing information. I kept going back, so I just stopped investigating, and I'm now realizing that must mean I'm just the worst detective ever. Oh my God, Batman would be so embarrassed if he knew me. He'd just be like, you suck. And I'm like, Batman, why do you hate me? I'm a good detective, I swear. I've also been watching a lot of Batman. It's the only thing on my mind. I've watched so much Batman recently. It's just... Batman video coming soon, maybe. I was gonna do just the Kevin Conroy films, and then I just started watching all the Batman films, and then I'm like, there's 50 of them, and then I started to lose my mind a little bit, because I was like, I should have been writing notes, because you think it's staying in your mind, but then you get to film 30, and you're like, I've forgotten everything. I've forgotten everything. Do I have to rewatch them? There's so many of them. So recast Roger / maybe not recast Roger, but he's super old Roger. He's all running about, and then he's like, find me, Lyra! I'm in the land of the dead! Whoa, spooky, spooky. And at that point, I got a little bit worried, because I'm like, land of the dead. Sounds like a place. He's not just like, I'm dead. This is just some kind of vision. Oh, it's a dream. I'm dead. You can't find me. He's like, come find me in the land of the dead. I don't really like the idea that she's maybe going to traverse the land of the dead and get back Roger. I feel like the whole of season 1, it's such an interesting, fun fantasy story. There's polar bears. Her mum is cutting the demons from the people, and it's all sad and tragic. But it ends. That whole final episode is just James McAvoy acting his ass off, just killing every scene, just being like, I've got this goal. I've got to get this goal. I've got to open these universes, prove the Magisterium wrong. This, that, all these things. And I just that moment where he sees his daughter, and he's just like, oh, no, I'm gonna have to kill her. And then he sees his friend, and she's like, oh, thank God, I could just kill a stupid friend. Oh, thank God. Fantastic. This has worked out very well for me. And I just love that so much. I am really afraid that they're going to be like, oh, well, it was tragic back then, but we've come so far, and Azrael seems like he's on a bit of a redemption path. He seems like the hero in these first 2 episodes, where he was seemed to be the hero, but then it was like, oh no, he's going to be the villain. And then season 2, he just wasn't in it, so I was unsure what I was meant to feel about him. And then at the end, he's like, angels, let's go fight hell, heaven, sorry, or what, I'm used to people saying let's fight hell, because that, but he's like, I gotta fight heaven, because he created churches or whatever. It's pretty intense. This is a pretty intense fantasy show, and it really isn't holding its punches with what its themes are, and how kind of not on the nose feels like it's the wrong phrasing, but it's very kind of strong with what it's saying. It's wearing what it's saying on its chest, and I really appreciate that. But it's pretty intense. Hopefully, I'm completely misconstruing this whole Land of the Dead, we're gonna bring back Roger, but that is, I don't know, that was what I kind of felt like in my gut. I'm like, oh, okay. And then later in the episode, or one of the episodes, Azrael is like, Echo from Lost, my new main character, best friend, buddy boy. Also, Echo from Lost, just, oh, he's so good. I love that actor. It's so cool. He's a main character now. That was super fun to just see him and be like, oh, I hope he's not in just 1 or 2 scenes. I'm not sure how famous the actor is. When you see someone you love and you're like, oh, are they just going to be a one-off character? Or are they the mainstay? And it appears that he's a mainstay, so I'm all in for that. But there was a line where Azrael was talking to Mr. Echo, and he's like, I'm going to make the dead not dead. Or I'm going to make dying die. I was like, I'm going to make being dead die. I'm going to make dying dead? I'm going to make dying dead, I think is what he said. And like, that's a crazy, awesome line. Like, just thought-provoking and interesting and, like, scary and, like, terrifying and interesting and cool. I think I said interesting twice, but it is very interesting. That worries me. That worries me. Stopping death from being a permanent thing in your show, even if it's at the end of the show, it's just... You run the line of it nothing really mattering, where it's like, okay, if he's going to do that, what if, like, you know, his ex-wife, like the mum of Lyra, dies? I'm going to be afraid where I'm like, oh, well, that's sad, but they'll bring her back at the end, because he said he's going to make dying dead, which in my mind, I'm like, he's going to make dying dead, so he's going to make dying not a thing, because the church has, like, made death a thing because of the authority run by the creator, or maybe the creator's, like, second command, some angel, just some dude, I don't know. Maybe I am overthinking or I'm like reading into it in the wrong way, but that is kind of the only thing about these episodes, all these 2 episodes, sorry, that kind of made me go like, oh, I really like all this stuff. That all feels that I don't know how I feel about that. And by that I mean, please don't do this. Please. I didn't ever really love Will. I found him in season 1 kind of curious and I was fascinated by it. I was like, what's with all this Earth stuff? Season 2, I was kind of like, oh, okay, he's also the chosen one. Lyra's the chosen one, but she's got a golden compass. The alethiometer, if you will. You will, that's what they call it. Do they even call it the golden compass? Is that just the movie? It doesn't matter. But he's also like, but I'm also the chosen one and I've got this sweet knife. The subtle knife! Which is... Is that name meant to be ironic? Oh, it's probably meant to be ironic. Because I was going to say, it's like the not-so-subtle knife. It's like the anti-subtle knife. It's like the... What's the opposite of subtle? Not-so-subtle knife! That's not a good name. I kind of like that, though. He's like, I'm wielding the not-so-subtle knife! It cuts anything! Yurick, polar bear man, king of the polar bears! Give me a helmet. It just cuts through the helmet, and the polar bear's like, I don't like that weird magic knife. I'm not going to fight you now. Which kind of feels like a bit of a coward move from the polar bear. I feel like if there was still a guy with a knife, I would just like, he'd just like swing the knife and then I would just pour him and then bite his neck and tear his neck out and, you know, blood everywhere, rip his head off because I'm a giant polar bear king. But I understand they need to team up and be friends. He's like, oh, you know Lyra? I know Lyra too. And they bond over knowing Lyra and wanting to save Lyra. So I get that. I still feel like when he cut the helmet, like, in theory, yes, like, menacing, but Will is still, like, they keep being like, Will, you're a warrior. You bested the king of the polar bears. Not really. I feel like the polar bear king just decided, I don't want to mess with this weird magic knife. Like, he was just kind of like, oh, I don't do magic. I don't, like, as a talking polar bear that wears armor, I don't really deal with that weird magic stuff. Which I respect, but also, you're a weird polar bear that talks and wears armor. I love saying the talking polar bear that wears armor. Makes my heart warm. It's so stupid and insane. I love it! It's really fun that he's back. I feel like he was in, like, a cameo appearance in season 2. Just like Lord Asriel, he wasn't really in it, which was kind of like, oh, that's like... The 2 main aspects of season 1 that I loved weren't really in it. So it's great that they're back. He's running about, eating people and throwing them about in some action scenes and set pieces, which is all a bit of fun. So I liked all of that. I also liked that Lord Asriel, in his time off in season 2, was somehow went to some kind of universe or world or whatever you call it, and he was like, give me some kind of weird sci-fi helicopter, spaceship, world-hopping machine. And I guess in one of those worlds, they're like, oh yeah, I've got one in my garage. Like, which one do you want? The silver one or the red one? He's like, I want the red one. They're like, I shouldn't have offered you the red one. That one's my wife's. She won't let you take that. Take the grey, disgusting, ugly, boring looking one. He's like, I'm mad, but it still will world hop. So as long as it world hops, I guess that's okay. I mean, I guess he could have done his own paint job and done some kind of cool color scheme so it wasn't generic grey to darkish murky nothing color, you know, very sci-fi, just and it could have been kind of interesting and cool, like red, like Ferrari red, or a different color. It could have been a different color, but I guess it doesn't have time because it's all like, I gotta stop heaven and the magisterium and the obfitarius, the authority. God, I've got to go kill God. Oh, his name is Metatron, and maybe that's God's henchman, second lackey, little friend boy. I'll kill him too. I'll just kill anyone involved with that whole thing. I'll just kill them all, which I respect, and I'm also horrified by. It's a complicated array of situations. He's very gung ho on this. let's go kill heaven, God, whoever, everyone's situation. But I feel like, I don't know. I'm worried he's going to get there and like Metatron or God or whoever, the creator is going to be like, bro, let me just lay it down for you. And they're going to like have a conversation. He's going to be like, oh no, I'm wrong. Or he's just going to get up there and like shoot him in the face. I have no idea where this is going. It's just, the show has changed so much from this show where a little girl is on a polar bear's back and she's like, I've got to find my father in the snow. And it's like, what has happened to this show? I love it. It's just madness. Speaking of madness, I love as well how they're like, Azrael has a helicopter spaceship thingy that isn't colourful enough, but you know, it's still pretty cool. And it's world hops, but also little pixie boys with little sci-fi pixie things. And they look like, you know, the Ant-Man and the Wasp, but get rid of the Ant-Man. What wasp thingies where they're like little wasps and they're flying about with little wings. I can't tell if they're part of them. They're weird metal robot mini boys running about. Like, what is that all about? They don't explain it at all. They're just like, they're here, little pixie boys, deal with it. And I respect that, but I have so many questions. Like, I love that they didn't tell us. They're just like, yeah, I don't know, stuff has happened. Azrael's been to a bunch of worlds. But what kind of world is that? Is that a world where everybody's a little boy? Like, is everyone just little miniature things? Like, did Azrael get there and he's just looking down, accidentally stomping on hundreds of people? And they're like, oh God, it's some kind of monster. And he's like, whoa, 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 that was all accidental. Those deaths were accidental. Or did he get there and they're like, we have these little, you know, miniaturized gun thingies, little ray guns where we can Ant-Man someone, but we can also wasp them, and they do that so they can be little spies going about, like little Ant-Man and the Wasps, but with wings, so just the Wasp, no Ant-Man. Get rid of the Ant-Man, just little wasps. Was it that, or was it the other? I just have so many questions. James McAvoy in the role as Lord Azrael is just as good as ever. I loved him getting an angel in his little torture chamber, his dust chamber, and being like, dust is crazy, right? I built it for dust or something, but it turns out it's now a torture chamber. Torture! And he's just like, does a thingy, and the angel's like, and he does you saw the episode, so you know what I'm saying. It was a lot of fun. It's just, I don't know what's going on anymore. He's got angels in his basement and he's torturing them with rooms that were meant to study dust. I'm just like, what? Okay, I love it, but what? I also like the design choice to just make all the angels bald. Like, why? It's just so weird. I don't know. Just like a fun little creative choice. I enjoyed that. So Lyra's mother for this episode is like, I'm protecting Lyra by drugging her. There's a moment where she's like, Lyra, don't escape. We're all going to be friends. And then she just drugs her, chloroforms her or whatever. And she just takes her back to her house. She's just drugging her and keeping her hostage. But she's like, it's for Lyra's own good. I'm so afraid of her, this and that. And like, you understand like the bare bones idea of that, of being like, yeah, she wants to protect her, and she's going about it in the most psycho way. Like, she's that character from Misery, just locking her up in this basement. She's a troubled woman and she doesn't know what's going on. But there's a couple of really good moments with her and her little orange monkey character. And then Will comes with his magical, not so subtle knife, and he's all like, you bad mother. And she's like, I'm not bad mother. We go together. He's like, you bad mother. And so Will and Lyra are finally back together again after the cliffhanger ending, the Empire Strikes Back-esque ending of season 2, where it's like, oh, everyone's separated and characters are dead and dying and all these things. But they're back together again, off to journey to meet Lord Azrael. But Lord Azrael has come and he's with the mum now. I should remember her name, but it's gone. It doesn't matter. You know, the mum character. So I think they're going to team up and be like, maybe we still love each other, but maybe we'll backstab each other later. Stabby stab, and there'll be all that good stuff. And I presume they'll both be separate for a while and they'll come back together for those final 3 or 4 episodes. And I'm very excited for the show because I could not tell you one theory or piece of speculative ideas in my head that could possibly come true, because I don't think I could not have comprehended what this episode was going to be. I mean, from just that start where they're like, it's the creator, he's God, which gave me this huge kind of lord, like, was it the Fire Lord from Avatar, where you hear like little bits and pieces of him in the first 2 seasons, but in the third one, you're like, oh, we're actually going to see the big bad now. And then you suddenly realize how much of an endgame season this is going to be. Like, I knew it was going to be the final season, but that moment just made me go, oh my, this is the endgame. We're in the endgame now. We also get some really good stuff with the religious priest, magisterium man character guy, you know, the guy who's like consult the alethiometer. And, you know, he's been in the whole show. He was really, really great. He sends his little minion to go to a thing, and then Mama Bear, Lyra's Mama Bear character, her mum, she grabs a rock and hits him in the face. And I'm like, I didn't think he was dead. But then, like, Lord Asriel, like, moves his head at one point, like, right at the end. I'm like, is he dead? Did she kill him with that rock? Crazy. Oh, also, speaking of rocks, the idea of asking your little animal friend that's like your soul to pick up a rock and just smash you with it. This is crazy. I'm just trying to imagine myself like having a soul that's a little animal and being like, just hit me with a rock. And they're like, yeah, all right. And I'm like, we have a complicated relationship, don't we? Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment below. I would love to know what everyone thought of the first 2 episodes of the final season of His Dark Materials.